On August 8, 1985, Elias Abowath was murdered and his wife Sakina was violently sexually assaulted. There were many problems with this case. Both Sakina's eyewitness testimony and forensic material collected from the crime scene were inconsistent with the man who was convicted, Richard Ramirez. This video will explain everything, using excerpts from the Appeal of the Night Stalker by Emily Zola et al. The book is based on documents from Ramirez's federal habeas corpus appeal. Sakina Abowath originally stated that the suspect was blonde or light brown. Some people think this is false information invented by fantasists who think Ramirez was innocent. This first responder report proves them wrong. Some claim that the defense made this up so Ramirez would be acquitted. They are incorrect. Sakina Abowath admitted saying he was blonde in court. In 2004, 2 alternate jurors wrote about eyewitness discrepancies in their declarations for Ramirez's appeals. Bonita Smith remembered the blonde hair being discussed in court. James Muldrow remembered mention of a Caucasian suspect. This information shouldn't even be a surprise. It's not new. Philip Carlo's 1996 biography discussed the blonde hair when he wrote about Sakina's cross-examination. She said it. Anyone denying this has not properly researched the case. Under cross-examination, Sakina Abowath claimed that she mistook Ramirez's almost black hair for dirty blonde or light brown because he stood under the bathroom light. How did this happen? The defense actually made little effort to challenge the victim on this discrepancy. This destroys any claims that his attorneys invented ridiculous theories to suggest he was innocent. They did the exact opposite. They effectively helped him receive the death penalty. Eyewitness identifications are notoriously inaccurate, especially involving terrified victims. Witnesses can easily misremember colors or clothing. Just because Sakina Abowath identified Richard Ramirez in court on 2 occasions doesn't mean he was the perpetrator. For Ramirez's appeals, his lawyers retained Professor Kathy Pezdek, who wrote about the bias of in-court identification. In a courtroom, it is glaringly obvious who is the defendant. Of course, witnesses would point the finger at Ramirez. He often wore prison clothes, and his leg shackles were visible. All this psychologically implies guilt. Abowath seemed strangely confused according to this Los Angeles Times article. She looked around the room for him before spotting him in shackles at the defense table. Another article describes her shuddering. Her testimony certainly had dramatic flair. Sakina Abowath denied seeing Ramirez's capture on the news. She claimed that due to her Islamic faith. She didn't watch TV while mourning her husband's death. However, Ramirez had been on the news repeatedly between the arrest and the hearing. There were many opportunities to see his face. Victims of crimes can easily be conditioned to believe they saw something they did not. There have been many psychological experiments which show the power of suggestion and how images can be planted into people's heads. It's the only explanation for how the killer's appearance changed after 4 police interviews. Sakina Abowath also changed her description of his teeth. First, she said the front teeth were wide. There were no gaps. Several police interviews later, she changed them to stained and crooked. If defense against the Abowath case relied solely on her description of a blonde man, then it would be fairly weak. But combined with the following evidence, it provides reasonable doubt at the very least. The serological evidence is the most important aspect of the Abowath case. Body hair and semen were discovered at the crime scene. Criminalist Steve Renteria collected semen from a vaginal swab. It excluded both Richard Ramirez and Elias Abowath as the source. As Emily Zola writes, Philip Carlo's biography revealed that Steve Renteria also said he found a genetic marker that excluded Richard as the attacker. There were additional semen stains on the bed. Some matched Elias's blood type. Some matched Ramirez's. This does not mean Ramirez was a perpetrator. He was type O, which is the most common. The most important semen was on the vaginal swab, and it was not his. Bizarrely, Renteria then discredited his own science as inconclusive. This could be because he worked for the sheriff's department. He could have been under pressure from his employers to find the desired conclusions. The excuse is always made that DNA testing was not available at this time, hence the use of PGM markers and blood typing instead. While this is true for 1985, DNA was first used in a U.S. criminal case in Florida in 1987 and in the U.K. in 1986. Ramirez's trial was in 1989. Why could they not retest the evidence for the trial? Now the hair. In hair forensics, transitional means hair from parts of the body between two identifiable regions, for example, between chest hair and pubic hair. In the Abowath case, the hair was thought to come from between the lower stomach or pubic area. Ramirez had no stomach hair, and it did not match his pubic hairs. Ramirez's appeals lawyer said his original attorneys should have impeached Sakina Abowath because she was not a credible witness. One reason why they might not have done so was Sakina's performance on the witness stand. She became distressed and nobody in the court helped her to calm down. This won the sympathy of the jury.
The standing mother told a hushed courtroom,
He said, "You bitch, your mother, you don't scream, otherwise I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your kids in the crib, and I'm going to kill your son too." I said, "I swear I won't scream. I swear upon God." And he slapped me one more time, and he said, "Swear upon Satan. Swear upon Satan." And I said, "Yes, I swear upon Satan. I won't scream."
She also verbally abused Ramirez in court in such a manner that the jury believed it impossible that she could be mistaken. Jurors and alternate jurors admitted that Sakina's emotional outburst convinced them in spite of the negative serological evidence. This shows how emotions take precedence over facts when the court loses control of a witness. The Night Stalker's infamous obvious shoe prints were not found at the Abowath crime scene. Instead, a Kinney Stadia print was found. Ramirez was wearing Stadias when he was arrested. Ramirez's defense failed to challenge the shoe evidence. The shoe print also doesn't match the heavy lace-up footwear described by the victim. This is from Philip Carlo's biography. And this is from the 2008 habeas corpus appeal. The final factor that contributed to Ramirez's conviction was the stolen property. Sakina Abowath identified some of her belongings in a stash of stolen items recovered from a fence called Felipe Solano. But there's no evidence the property truly came from Ramirez. Felipe Solano confessed in court that he received stolen goods from multiple burglars, none of whom were presented to the court by the prosecution. Ramirez's defense didn't present them either. The prosecutor refused to give them addresses of those informants connected with Solano. This aspect of the crime made the attack a capital offense, and Richard received the death penalty.